Welcome to this tutorial for the print and cut workflow element of our Caldera RIP software. Different topics will be addressed in this video, such as cut contour editing, cutter installation, file manager settings, compose and contour nesting, PrintBleed, and VisualCut. During this tutorial, we will demonstrate how to prepare and produce a sheet of stickers made of adhesive vinyl. Before we start with the tutorial, let's have a closer look at the Caldera Print and Cut workflow. First, the file has to be well prepared, using publishing software such as Illustrator. Then, the PDF must be properly imported inside the RIP software with FileMan. Before ripping, jobs can be nested using the Compose application. The proper cut marks are added from the Print module. After processing, a cut file is generated. The cut file is managed from VisualCut. The tools can be set up, and the cutting process can start. Part 1. Cut contours and Illustrator. In this step, we are going to define strokes as cut contours in order to create individual stickers. This step is crucial. If the native file isn't well prepared, problems could occur while printing and cutting the job. First, select the vector shape you want to cut. Make sure the stroke is at least a 0.1 point stroke. Then open the stroke color swatches and create a new swatch. Choose a name and switch the color type to spot color. Choose a stroke color. Then you can validate the settings. You should also make sure that the stroke is aligned with the center. As you can see, this design requires two inside cut shapes. If you want to cut these shapes, you must use the Pathfinder, or else both shapes won't be detected by the RIP software. To do so, select all the cut shapes in the design and choose the minus front option from the Pathfinder panel. As you can see, the inside shapes are now ripped from the main shape. Part 2. Cutter installation. In this step, we are going to demonstrate how to install the new cutter, which will allow us to cut the stickers after printing. First up, let's go to the Settings tab located in the application bar. Click the Config icon. We are now going to create a new application icon inside the application bar. By doing so, we will be able to access the VisualCut application later on. To create the new icon, click on New. Choose Cutter and enter a name. Because we haven't yet installed a cutter, the list is empty, so we are going to configure a new cutter model. Once again, enter a name. Choose a model from the list. Here, we are going to use the GraphTech FC8600. Then choose a Q folder. The Q folder is the place where all the cut files will be generated. Here, because we are using iOS, we are going to create the Q folder in /calderadata/public. If you are using a Debian operating system, create it in /home/public. Because public is a shared folder, it would be easier for a remote RIP station to access the cut queue if needed. Let's create the new folder. Click Open to validate. This field can remain empty. It's needed only for specific flatbed cutters. Finally, click OK to validate all the settings. Click Restart to apply all the changes. As you can see, the new cutter application is now available in the application bar. Part 3. FileMan configuration. For this tutorial, we have exported the PDF file with 2 embedded cut contour names. Some stickers embed kiss cut strokes, and others embed strong cut strokes. To be detected as cut shapes by the RIP software, both cut contour names must be registered in the cut contour list, reachable from FileMan. As expected, both spot colors are well detected by the RIP. Let's find the cut contour list for the registration of both spot colors. Click Setup. Then click on the Edit Cut Contour List button. Then we can add the 2 missing cut contour names we need to proceed. After that, we can go back to the main FileMan interface in order to open the multi-page PDF, thanks to the Adobe PDF print engine. As you can see, the small cutter icon in the thumbnail means that the cut contours have been well interpreted. Now, let's get more information about the current file. To do so, simply drop the file from the image bar to the info icon. From there, you will access different kinds of information, such as embedded spot colors and cut contour names. Inside the Spot Colors tab, we can see both spot colors included in the multi-page PDF. By going into the Contours tab, we can get more information about the current draw. As expected, the file contains the strong cut contour and a PDF trim box contour. What does PDF trim box mean? There are actually 5 boxes in a PDF file. Each box represents the boundaries of a document area: the trim box, the bleed box, the crop box, and the media box. The trim box represents the final trimmed product size. The bleed box is beyond the trim box and surrounds the bleed area if there is bleed area in the file. The crop box defines the visible area of a PDF file. The media box represents the overall PDF size, A4 for instance. If we open the file in Adobe Acrobat Pro, it's possible to highlight the boxes of the current PDF file. By default, the trim box corresponds with the artboard size used previously in Illustrator, that is 100mm by 100mm. Using the Caldera RIP software, a PDF file can be opened and cropped based on a specific box. If trim box, crop box, or media box are selected, it will automatically create a new contour based on the trim box boundaries. We will see later that this trim box acts as a cut contour. Part 4. Compose application. In this part, we will nest the 5 stickers we just opened in the image bar. To do so, we are going to use the Compose application. First, we must choose a document size. Here, the size of the document is chosen based on the available width of the GraphTech cutter we will use later. Because this cutter allows a cut area up to 61 centimeters in width, we set a document width of 45 centimeters. We do need to plan for a margin, since the cut marks will be added later on. Now we can drag and drop the files from the image bar to the Compose document. By pushing the Control key while dropping the items, we can duplicate each file as many times as we need. Here, we want to duplicate each file 10 times. Let's jump now inside the nesting section. We add a 5mm margin between each copy, and we click the Contour Nesting button in order to nest all the entities according to the contour shapes. Finally, we can nest the files and adjust the height of the document. Once the composition is ready, we can create the new job inside the image bar. Part 5. Print Module and PrintBleed Setup. Now we are going to treat the job in the Print module in order to add bleed area and cut marks. We will print the job on a 54-inch roll. Let's go to the layout options. To be sure to get enough margin on the right and left sides, we center the job on the media. Because the current document has been made in Compose using contour nesting, the option needs to be enabled here as well. It's now time to add bleed around each sticker. PrintBleed allows you to create enough additional pixels outside the cut paths in order to avoid any white area after cutting. To access the bleed settings, go to the Marks tab. Enable the bleed option and click the plus icon. Because we are using specific cut contours, the standard mode stands as default mode. This mode can be associated with 3 different methods. Let's see how it works. Duplication mode. The very last pixels surrounding the cut path are duplicated outside the contour up to 10mm. Mirror mode. Pixels surrounding the cut contour are mirrored outside the cut contour, up to 10mm. Mask mode. This method works only if there is already some bleed area in the document. If no bleed, you can't set a bleed value, like in the current example. For this kind of document, we'll choose the mirror mode. Then we can set a bleed value of 3mm, which is more than enough. The real printed bleed preview is not available. Instead, a surrounding purple area shows the additional pixels. If internal bleed area is required, the lettering option must be selected. Otherwise, the bleed won't be applied to the internal shapes. Let's go now to the Cutting tab in order to set up the cut marks. Because contour nesting is activated, cutting contour is already enabled. Here you can choose the cutter device. In this case, cutter is the device we created at the beginning of this tutorial. Don't forget to activate the registration marks. These marks will guide the cutter through the job to cut. If activated, the operator can scan the barcodes with a barcode reader in order to automate the orientation of the job from the VisualCut interface. From the Contours section, if Cut Contour Only is selected, only cut contours will appear. If All Contours is selected, all the available contours inside the file will appear. In this case, the PDF trim box can be addressed as a cut path. Of course, here we just want to use the cut contours we created in Illustrator. This panel allows you to activate or deactivate printing or cutting for each selected contour. Here, we don't want to print the contours, we only need to cut them. We are now ready to print the job. Part 6. VisualCut Interface. Let's check the printing status by going to the spooler. Once the printing process is complete, you can reach the VisualCut interface by clicking on the Cut button. Be aware that the cut file will be available only after the ripping process. Here is the VisualCut interface. Let's discover the main settings together. From the Connection tab, it's possible to connect the cutter device in different ways. Here we are using the raw IP connection because the cutter is plugged on the network. By looking at the cutter panel, the IP address can be found and written inside the host field. The status will indicate whether the device is connected or not. Above, you can see the job queue, which contains all the jobs to cut. Let's go now to the Tool Settings and Priority section. We haven't assigned any tool to StrongCut and KissCut yet, so all the stickers will be cut with the default tool. First, we are going to create a new StrongCut tool. The tool must be linked to the proper contour name, so here we write StrongCut. If you prefer to use a condition set from the cutter, just select the one you want to use from the list and uncheck all the options below. Here, we prefer to set up the tool parameters from VisualCut. For StrongCut, we want a dashed cut through the substrate, a lower speed, a higher force to ensure a through cut. Let's now change the StrongCut color preview. Now we can apply the same process for KissCut. This time we want to use a solid line and a higher speed. Here, we set up a lower force because unlike StrongCut, we don't need to cut through the substrate. By changing the preview opacity, we can highlight both KissCut and StrongCut contours. It's now time to load the printed vinyl sheet in the cutter. Because it's a unique job with marks, it's necessary to set up the origin point according to the first cut mark. Of course, this process will depend on the device's manufacturer. Back to VisualCut. We are ready to send the job to the cutter. To do so, just select the contours to cut from the list. Also, before launching the cut process, we need to rotate the job since it has been loaded in a different way to fit the cutter. Let's cut the job. First, the device will detect each registration mark. If the marks are detected properly, the cut process will start immediately. Because StrongCut was first listed in VisualCut, the cutter will start with the dashed cut. Then it will continue with KissCut. The cutting process is done. Let's take off a sticker. Here you can see the remaining bleed area. You can also see that internal cut shapes have been successfully cut. Finally, the dashed cut shapes can be released. This concludes our training video about the Caldera Print&Cut workflow using VisualCut. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more training video content.